There's so many options with PPC. A lot of people are focusing on Google AdWords, but today I'm going to talk about how LinkedIn advertising for B2B is better than Facebook, is better than Google, and you can be more strategic with who you're targeting.
Okay, I've been working like 3 jobs. Probably why I never see ya. Probably why I never have time for the fake friends that won't be ya. Been bottom, but it's looking like they took a time out. Okay, I'm working on a Wednesday, then up again the next day. So-and-so is popping, man. I skip him like he leg day.
So we all know about Google AdWords. That's something that everybody's been using for such a long time. The biggest issue that I see with Google AdWords is you do not know the intent behind the search. So I always go back to that. Why is a person searching for you? You're trying to do targeted keywords, you're trying to use negative keywords, so you're trying to get the best traffic, but still, if you don't know the intent behind why somebody is searching, you can't really, value those searches and those hits as high as you should be able to do if you were putting it in front of more strategic targeted people that you want to do business with or that could have a potential lead. With Google AdWords, you're going to look at the bounce rate and you may see higher bounce rates. You may see that the campaigns aren't working, whether you have a PPC agency doing this for you. It's just one of those things that you might struggle with getting the value out of, but the cost behind Google AdWords PPC is why people go to it. I mean, it's cheap. At the end of the day, it's like a couple bucks even for highly targeted keywords, up to maybe 10 bucks. But LinkedIn advertising has proven over the last 3 years that we've been using it, and I've been using it personally, to be more strategic. It is a higher cost, but it's way more strategic. You're taking away that intent of search and putting your brand out in front of somebody that you feel would be a good fit and enticing them to click. So it's more of a disruptive advertising within the feed, putting something in front of them to say, hey, this is relevant to you. This is something I think you can get some value out of, and trying to get them to click and engage. That's why, because LinkedIn has the data that is the most relevant, it's better than Facebook. Facebook is more behavioral based. Even if you look at Twitter and that's cheap, Facebook that's cheaper than that. It's all behavioral based. Even if you're doing lists on Twitter, you're not really getting the best traffic. You cannot be strategic, and that's where LinkedIn comes into play to be so hyper focused that there's nothing else that can touch it. Because of that, it is ridiculously expensive if you're trying to compare it to something else. But if you look at your cost per lead, if you guys are selling something that is of higher dollar value, if you're doing a $50 product, it's not a fit. Go to Facebook, go to Instagram. If you're doing a service where you're talking about thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands or $1 million contracts, which a lot of our clients are doing that, you cannot touch the value that you can provide and the cost that you're going to pay for that acquisition of a good, solid lead. So there's a bunch of different types that you can use on LinkedIn. There's text, which is just going to show up in the top. There's InMails, which is where you're running a campaign based on your targeted demographic, and you're sending them essentially cold email marketing, where LinkedIn is sending it to people as they log into LinkedIn based on their frequency and history. They're sending them this message. LinkedIn InMail marketing does work. However, you're going to get less engagement back from that. Compared to email marketing, way better. Bounce rates are non-existent because LinkedIn's controlling it. You're going to get a higher open rate. You're probably going to get a higher click rate than what you would see on email marketing, but you don't have to have their email in your database to use it. You can just basically build out your criteria within LinkedIn. But the downside to it is that people aren't looking at those as much value and aren't placing as much value on it as they used to, because it's become somewhat redundant. Everybody's doing in-mail marketing, and mainly because it's cheap. You can get, if you're going after CEOs of companies or high VPs of companies, you can get in-mails at anywhere from 80 cents to $1.10 per send. It's not per open, it's per send. And then you can look at all that data and see that you're getting a higher open rate versus email marketing. But the best one to do is that third option, which is sponsored posts. So within sponsored posts, there's mainly two options that you have. You can either sponsor a post that you did that's a written piece of content or a graphic, or a post that you did that's a video. What you're sponsoring is essentially something on your company page. So first you have to have a company page, then you post content to that company page. Once the content is posted, now you can sponsor that. They basically took that from Facebook or from Facebook Boost posts. It's essentially the same thing. And you're saying, I want to take this piece of content and I want to put it out to people that I'm not connected with, aren't following me, and I want to be as strategic as possible. The best things that are going to work for that are video and graphics. Articles do work white papers, case studies, if you're strategic and you're going after engineers or people that are specifically looking to read that. If you're in a services like a banking or legal or anything like that, if you had professional services, article, white paper, case study, that could work as well. But video is gonna trump both of those options, or even a branded graphic, which is just an image graphic that takes up the full screen that shows, a background image and some text on it and your logo that is relevant to them. Those have been performing the longest and for the most consistent amount of time, with them introducing sponsored posts for videos in about the middle of last year. That's where you can use those now, and those are going to have a higher engagement. So for us, for what we do and what we've seen over the last 3 years, sponsored posts work the best. The way that you break it down is you need to have some good creative content. Whether it's a graphic, an article or white paper, or a video, it has to be relevant and built for the platform. People will say that everybody's using LinkedIn on mobile, or that everybody's searching Google with mobile and it trumps desktop. Look at your target demographic. For our clients in the markets and industries we serve, it's not the case. It's primarily desktop, because the people we're targeting are in their office on their computer. Whether it's a laptop or desktop, they're in an office on a computer. They're not looking on their mobile. If you're going after salespeople, marketing people, yes, they are going to be more likely to be on mobile. But still, you need to make your creative content to be able to fit within the framework of the device they're using and be optimized for that. But then also, if they're using a different type of device, being able to have it be responsive to it. And LinkedIn takes care of that for you. But if you focus on mobile and it's delivered on desktop, you're going to lose out big time, because everything's going to be too shrunk in to be expanded out on desktop. So the first step is doing the creative content. When you create the creative content, you want to start with at least 4 pieces of content. You can either do 2 A/B tests to get 4 pieces, or you can just do 4 completely separate pieces, or 4 similar pieces with slight differences, but you need to have 4. The reason why you need to have 4 is that you're going to put these in rotation. If I'm targeting you as a potential customer for us, and I'm saying, here's an ad that I'm going to put in front of you, and you're going through your feed and you swipe past it, and then you come into LinkedIn 2 hours later and that ad shows up again, it's the same thing. Obviously, it didn't work the first time, so why would you click it the second time? Maybe you would look at it because it's interesting standpoint, or it's relative to what you're doing because you've now just seen it, but at the end of the day, you're probably swiping past it because it didn't catch your attention. So if you have 4 pieces of content, you don't see the first one, the next time you come in, LinkedIn's going to show you the second branded graphic or video. If you don't go to that, it's going to then show you the third one, and then the fourth one, and then it's going to repeat over, first, second, third, fourth, and that's where you can get some diversity where people aren't seeing the same posts over and over again. I've seen so many Fortune 500 large corporations, I see the same post in my feed. They're sponsored, they're targeting me, and it just keeps on showing up, and I didn't click it the first time, so I'm not going to do it the second or the 20th time that I see it. Now, where these show up and how it works is, if you go into your feed, desktop or mobile, you're going to notice that around the second or third thing that you see in your feed, right in the center of your desktop or right on your mobile, is going to say sponsored underneath the company name. That means that that company is paying money to put that in front of you, and either they're paying per impression or they're paying if you click it. Once you get to that second or third one, as you scroll past that, if you count to about 6 to 8, every 6 to 8, sometimes the 10th post is another sponsored piece of content. LinkedIn does that so that way it's mixed in to where it doesn't look like they're just selling out their space to a bunch of advertisers. You're going to see a bunch of your connections content, and then you're going to hit with another sponsored one, and that's just going to go on forever. As you keep scrolling past that, every 6, 8, 10th post, you're going to see another piece of sponsored content. They'll change from video to written article to white paper to branded graphic, but you're going to start to see it. The people that are willing to bid the most, just like Google AdWords PPC, it's the same thing. Whoever's willing to pay a penny more than the next highest bidder gets that spot. So as you're scrolling through your feed, the first sponsored post you see, that guy's willing to pay the most money based on my target demographic, or you, based on whatever they're searching for, they're willing to pay the most. Once you go to the next spot, which is 10 to 12 positions later, you're going to see that's the second highest bidder for that. So to get to the top, you want to be able to bid the most. And LinkedIn shows that in the back end of the platform, and everything is self-serve, so you can manage the price, the bid, the budget, pause it, stop it, whatever you want to do. All that's controlled by you or by your agency if you choose to do that. and you get to control what position you want to be. It's not going to tell you, well, based on this, you're at the second ad position, but you can look at what other people are bidding. To a certain extent, they're going to say, here's the range most people are willing to spend, and if you go way above that, then you would be the highest. So once you start putting that in front of once you have your creative set up and you're saying, I want to do sponsored posts, here's my bid, now you have to go over your demographic. This is where stuff gets insanely targeted. So there's two essentially rules of thumb that you have. You can either target people based on their aspects of their profile. So you can say anything in somebody's profile, geographic location, their headline, their title, their job function, their company that they work for. You can go into their school, their interests, all that stuff you can target. So one side of the coin, you're going to say, I want to go after ideally this industry. So let's just say that this industry is marketing or advertising industry. You're going to say, this is my biggest filter. I only want it to show to these people in this industry. Now, industries are dedicated and classified by LinkedIn. This is not what you think an industry is. This is not what Hoover says an industry is. This is LinkedIn's own industry classifications, which you first have to look to see what is your target demographics company page set as an industry. You may think it's e-commerce, but really it's consumer goods or consumer electronics. Do that research first to hit the first industry. Once you get into the industry, now you want to look at the people. Job function is going to be the next kind of bigger level filter. If you go down to title, that's extremely focused, and that could work awesome, or you could be missing out on people if they don't have that specific title you're going after. You can do job function and then seniority. So I want to look for VPs and managers and directors, and I want people that have a higher seniority level than others. So you could do like engineers that are VPs or operations that are VPs or managers. So you've got those options to play with. That's kind of one side of it, and there's tons of different things you can do based on geographic location and interest and schools that they went to. I would stay away from the schools and the interests. I would just focus on job function, seniority, and industry, and then geographic if you have to. So those main four are the core things. On the flip side of that, you can do strategic account-based marketing tactics and say, I want to go after these 100 companies. I want to go after these 68 companies. And from that standpoint, what you're able to do is you're only going after people that say that they work at those companies. Now you maybe want to be a little bit broader with your job function or seniority, and you say, I want only people at one of these 100 companies or one of these 65 companies, but I only want to show it to people in this job function, or I don't care about the function of their job or the title. I just want to show it to managers or entry level. That's when you can get the most targeted. Nobody else can touch that, not any other platform. And because of that, the pricing around LinkedIn, expect that you're going to pay to be closer towards the top of the ad positions. You're going to be anywhere from like $6 a click up to $15 a click. That may seem ridiculously expensive, but nobody else has this data. LinkedIn is the only one, and people keep their LinkedIn profiles up to date on a daily, weekly basis because at the end of the day, they're probably using it primarily to look for a job. So they want to make sure that recruiters or people that, if they are looking for a job, can find them or present opportunities to them. So the cost is high, but it's well worth it. Now, once you set up your campaign and you've got all of that information in there, then you can, once you have it targeted, then you can run out this campaign and set it to run Monday through Friday. You do not want to run these campaigns typically on a weekend unless you feel like your target demographic is going to be there on a weekend and they're thinking about business. Recruiters, things like that, they'll run campaigns on weekends because that's when people may have more downtime to think about a job. But for the majority of the people out there, you're going to want to run these Monday through Friday. Do not waste your money on Saturday and Sunday clicks. You will get traffic, you will get clicks, your bounce rate on your site will increase. Wherever you're sending them to will increase the bounce rate because there's so many distractions on the weekend. People may be on LinkedIn and saying, yep, I'm gonna look at this, and they click a link and then their kids or whatever they're doing or their family or their boyfriend and girlfriend distract them and they get out of it, and now you've just wasted money. So we've done this over years, looked at the data, and we tested every once in a while to see if it's changed. Weekend clicks is typically not the most engaged traffic. When you're setting up the campaigns, you can either send the traffic to a specific location or you can ask them to fill out a lead form. Now, a lead form is basically just like Facebook lead forms, which is who LinkedIn got it from. They're going to be pulling in some of your information, your name, your email, your phone number, whatever you have on LinkedIn. They'll pull it in automatically, and you can send a lead form to whoever's doing that sponsored post, if that's how they have it set up, and then they get the information in a spreadsheet and get notified through the ad platform, and then they can reach out to you from there. Those sometimes work well, while as sometimes others, it's just sending people to a site or to a landing page or someplace else outside of LinkedIn. Those can work just as effective. It all depends on what you're marketing, what your service and your target demographic is. You want to try and do some tests, run some as a lead form, then run a month without a lead form, run them A/B tested back and forth to see what type of engagement you can get. But those main options, doing sponsored posts with either lead form or sending somebody to traffic, being strategic with industries, job functions, or specific companies, that is the most strategic, targeted, well worth dollar spent that you can do on PPC over Google, over Facebook. Personally, I would not recommend doing that unless you've seen a lot of wins with Google AdWords, just because you don't know the intent behind the search. Everything is self-serve. We've been doing this for 3 years since they first allowed it to be self-serve. If you guys have specific questions about it, you can certainly shoot us a message and I'll be able to provide you some feedback as much as we can. We've written tons of articles about this, but LinkedIn advertising is hands down the most cost effective if your dollar spend for once you acquire somebody is higher. Like I said, if you're $100, $200 for a client, not worth the time. But if you're in the thousands, tens of thousands to millions on a contract with somebody, or even 50,000, it is well worth the time. The cost is gonna provide way more of a benefit to you. So I highly recommend you guys checking out the LinkedIn advertising. Don't waste your time with text, go with sponsored posts, but please do not go in there, create something, not be strategic, and drop $400, have that spend busted out over 5 days, and then be like, this just doesn't work, it didn't work for me. You have to be patient and be strategic with what you're doing. Make sure your creative is there. If you're in the market for doing some PPC budgeting, I would say recommend between $1,000 to $3,000, basically $1,000 and up. To get your feet wet, I would say $1,000 to $1,500 of a spend with LinkedIn. That's gonna get you maybe 150-ish types of clicks, depending on who you're going after. Maybe you can get up to 200 or 300 from there if it's a lower dollar amount based on who you're going after. But you need to go slow or hire an agency to do it for you. You can hire us to do it for you, and we've got data to show how we do it. But you want to, if you're gonna go in there yourself, if you're a marketer working for a company, what I see so much is when I say, have you guys ever looked at LinkedIn? They say, yep, we did. We tried it and it sucked. Well, what'd you do? What was the creative? Oh, well, we didn't know about this strategic targeting of accounts. We didn't know that we should do it like this. We were just doing text ads, or we were doing InMails. You have to take your time and really focus on what you're doing to produce the content, and then go strategically after people, and then keep your budget low for the first week. Spend like $100 and then pause that on a Friday, and then look at the data and look at where you're sending people to and look at the engagement, and then start it back up on that next Monday and spend another $100. Don't set it to 500 over this amount of time. LinkedIn will blow that budget. Your money will be gone. You'll be pissed off, and your boss will be like, how'd it work? And you'll say, I don't know, it seems like it sucked. It's not worth our time. So take it slow. If you guys like the content here about LinkedIn advertising, hit that like button. If you have questions about it, leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.